What's that like, playing Madden and having your dad talking to you the whole time while you're trying to hit the sticks, or do you just put it on mute?
It's pretty interesting. I don't mute it, but it's definitely not full volume. Definitely not full volume. I hadn't heard that one before. I like that.
Talking to Charles Davis, one of the best analysts in the world, if not the best analyst in the world. We had the draft yesterday. It ended,
Yes.
and now we're trying to figure out what is the team that did the best in the draft, like what the grades are. And in my opinion, as much as everybody likes to say that they thought that the Colts did the best job, I really think the Ravens did the best job for need. And they needed wide receivers that can get the job done, stretch the field, and open it up for one. Lamar Jackson is the number one option. And then the number two option being Andrews, being able to go up the seam. Duvernay is a guy that a lot of people, I think, don't underestimate. They underestimated him. John Madden used to call guys mudders that could navigate in any kind of weather. They always stayed the course, and that's Duvernay. Duvernay, the first guy that grabs him is not going to tackle him. He's already looking at the second guy. So that is something that they really needed as a point of contention, according to all the other pieces that they had. And I want to see what you think about that.
Mark, I think you're spot on with that, because Duvernay and his ability to run routes, find separation, and then turn it into more after the catch, that's a big deal for them. And the other part is, with Lamar's ability to run the ball, Mark Ingram's ability to run the ball, they had Gus Edwards last year, and then they add J.K. Dobbins.
Wow.
I was joking they could go wishbone in the NFL and really mess some people up, because they can run them into the ground. And then when he fakes the wishbone, and you remember those days,
Oh, yeah.
and he goes down the line and steps back and wants to throw over the top, now you can throw over the top to Hollywood Brown. You can throw it down the seam, as you said, to Mark Andrews. And even though Hayden Hurst isn't there anymore, they're still going to be just fine, because they've got plenty of people. Yeah. Then you add in Duvernay, and I'm going to give you a guy that no one's talking about, and that's James Prochet.
Yeah.
Kid out of MU. Nifty little slot receiver himself. I think that's another good pickup for them.
That's a little flex for me there. If Charles Davis is seconding what I called Mark this morning to talk to him about James Prochet.
Here we go.
And you're seconding that, so I'm going to get a little flex in there.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, there he is, ladies and gentlemen. The Phranchyze
Hey,
is in the building.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Phranchyze.
Mark, I think you're spot on about the Ravens. I thought they had a fantastic draft. For them to get Patrick Queen and J.K. Dobbins as their first two picks,
Wow.
drafting as late as they do in the draft, we're talking about Patrick Queen may have been the top-rated linebacker on a number of boards in around the 32. It was him. It was Kenneth Murray. Zach Bond got into the conversation from Wisconsin, but consensus was him and Kenneth Murray 1-2, depending on what order you wanted. So a number of teams had Queen number 1. A lot of teams had J.K. Dobbins, and when I say a lot, let me rephrase. I think a decent number of teams had J.K. Dobbins in their top 2 running backs. So when you put it all together, and there were a bunch of runners, as we know, J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, obviously DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers. You got a bunch of guys that we could have talked about being the number 1 runner in this draft. For them to get Dobbins, wow. I mean, that's a big deal to me, to be able to compliment him with Ingram and, of course, Lamar and his ability to run the ball. And then, of course, on the defensive side, obviously we mentioned Queen, but getting Madubuike at defensive tackle. Remember, they were supposed to have Brockers.
Right.
Brockers fails the physical, has to go back to the Rams. Already got in Calais Campbell, who's one of the greatest people you will ever
You have to account for him.
Player. He is just a phenomenal person. Now you add that secret in there. Even though you lost Michael Pierce, I'm seeing nothing but home runs in this draft. Eric DeCosta, Paolo Ozzie Newsome. The Ravens are doing their thing.
Well, on this panel, we have a Minnesota fan, We have a 49ers fan, and of course, me being a Cowboy fan. Before we touch briefly on our teams, I wanted to bring up a point about Jacksonville. A lot of people underestimate when you start talking about need. Jacksonville filled the needs that they needed. They got two wide receivers that both are long and rangy, and they give you more of a area to throw in. And Manchu was not the most accurate, but he usually got the ball to the area.
Sure.
So they found need in getting two receivers in Ayuk. Am I pronouncing?
Ayuk, yeah.
And Colin Johnson, who has got the largest radius of all the wide receivers in the draft. So throw it to the area and hope for the best.
Niners got Ayuk.
All right. Mark, you brought about Jacksonville. So last night at the end of the draft, okay, you know how the draft had to work this year, and I thought the people that pulled off the draft did a phenomenal job. I mean,
absolutely.
To be able to put all that together, to do all those things to get into the homes of these kids without being able to physically do a lot of these things because of the pandemic, I thought it was off the charts. I really did. Absolutely sensational. They had to mash together ESPN and NFL Network. So I did pre-shows for NFL Network from my home. And then when the draft started, I'd do an hour post-draft show. So you bring up Jacksonville. So this just tells me how lucky I am to be hanging out with you, because at the end of the show last night, I said the Jacksonville Jaguars had the sneaky good draft of the draft.
Wow.
Sleeper draft.
Today, look, they were able to get, let's just go through it real quick. C.J. Henderson from Florida. Remember, Jeff Okudah was the consensus number one corner. But as we got closer to the draft, it became more and more apparent that a number of teams had C.J. Henderson rated number one. So they got potentially the number one corner in the draft with their first pick at 9. They get their second pick at 20, and they get the pass rusher, Caleb Chase on.
Yeah.
And to flip over to your point, Mark, Laviska Shenault was my man crush going into this draft, the receiver from Colorado. Deebo Samuel II, okay? He can do everything you want. People bounce off of him. You want to get another guy that helped him out? Well, look on down there. Your man Colin Johnson from the University of Texas. That's a big, tall, beautiful-looking target that he can go up there and throw it. And you pointed out Minshew being able to have some forgiveness in his throwing. Colin Johnson's about 6'5". So you go up and get the football. You've got a guy to go get it for him. And then they added a late tight end in Tyler Davis from Georgia Tech. But to me, Josiah Scott, an underrated corner from Michigan State in a position of huge need for Jacksonville. Yeah. He literally could walk in and be a starter day one, Jacksonville, when this season begins. Because as we all know, Jalen Ramsey with the Rams, A.J. Boye is now with Denver. So yes, that could easily happen.
You
Mark,
need in their defense.
Me feel good about liking Jacksonville.
That's a flex, because it's just like Dino. Dino had the flex earlier today. He said Charles came on and said exactly what I said to you before he came on. Yes, Dino, we both got flexes right now.
Okay, let's all settle down.
Great.
Don't hate. Don't hate Phranchyze.
Hey, Charles, let me ask you a quick question before we get into our teams, man. So you do live games, right? You do analysis, right? You do, obviously, the Madden. Bro, when do you sleep, man? Like, what is your sleep schedule like, man? Like, when do you actually close your eyes and intake oxygen in a sleep cycle?
Well, you know, I love that question, but the beauty of it is most of the stuff comes in concentrated bursts.
Sure.
Because the football season we know runs from, when I'm really at it, it's August until the Super Bowl, right? Madden goes on during that time frame, so that never ends. Madden keeps going, and we usually wrap Madden. We start in August, and we usually wrap in June. This year might be a little bit different because of the pandemic. We had to stop down for a while. Right. And then, of course, doing draft analysis, we all know that time frame is January until right now, the day after. We're pretty much done. I'll do a couple of things, but I don't have to hit it like that. So in a lot of ways, I'm like a teacher. Here comes summer vacation.
Here comes. Get that rest, man.
We'll get that rest. We'll pull it in, and then we get to go back at it. But you know how it goes. You spend 2 or 3 days like, woo, yes, this is great. And it's like, let's talk some football.
Yeah.
So speaking of talking football, the furthest team away from winning the Super Bowl is the Minnesota Vikings. So we'll start with Dino.
Oh, come on now. You're right, probably, because of the old Kirk Cousins factor. But
Here we go.
Oh man.
Charles, how do you think the Vikings did on the draft? And is there a chance? Is there an outside chance that the quarterback they got from Iowa
So you're saying there's a chance?
be good enough to
Supplant Kirk Cousins.
supplant Kirk Cousins?
Okay, I'll start with that, Dino. No.
God,
Kirk is going to be running the football team. Nate Stanley, I love Nate Stanley, 3-time captain at Iowa, tough as nails. He's not beating out Kirk Cousins, okay? So you just let that part go.
Okay.
Kirk is your guy. Get with the captain, and here's how it goes. But I thought they helped him, Dino.
Yeah,
I really did. I thought they helped him. Getting Justin Jefferson, see, because losing Stephon Diggs, as we know, was big, all right? But Jefferson comes in now, goes into the slot because they were hoping Chad Beebe would do that last year, but he had nothing but leg injuries.
yeah.
BC Johnson exceeded expectations last year. He'll play out wide. Adam Thielen will play out wide. You throw Jefferson into the slot, and then when you're going with extra receivers, Thielen likes to work in the slot as well. That's a win. All right, to me, that's a big win for Minnesota. I think when you look at the rest of their draft, on the defensive side, you know Zim's not going to let that go. So he got another corner, all right? One thing we know about the Vikings is death taxes and drafting corners.
Yes, sir.
Okay? They are going to do that, all right? Gladney comes in, love how he plays. That's a tough, hard-nosed kid. He'll go right into the slot, and so Mike Hughes can go back outside and be the outside corner. Gladney can play the slot now if they want to. I think as you go into the rest of it, you're looking at Riley Reef still being that left tackle. Wouldn't surprise me at all now that if Ezra Cleveland, the pick from Boise State, comes along, you kick Reef inside the guard because they need that help.
Okay.
They need that support because Bradbury the center. They moved last year Elfline to guard.
Ooh.
All right. Who's the other guard? That's always been a question. Now you can come in, kick Reef inside with a lot of force and bulk.
Wow.
Now you've
Guard.
increased your offensive line. So I love what they've done there. On the rest of it, James Lynch, underrated defensive end from Baylor. He'll be more of a defensive tackle in the NFL. They needed that help too because Linval Joseph is gone, right? Shamar Step. So they need that help going there. So I really like a lot of what they've done in the draft. And I'm going to give you an underrated guy for you to keep an eye on. 2 of them, 2 defensive backs.
Okay.
Brian Cole, who went in the 7th round, has a lot of speed and came out of high school as a really top wide receiver. And going to give Harrison Hand another corner from Temple. Big-time player, not as fast as people might want, but I think he can be a nickel or a dime corner and be able to help you out. And he has that toughness that Zim is looking for, okay? So keep an eye out for those guys. I thought it was a pretty good draft for you overall, but the bottom line was they finally took care of Kirk up top.
Yeah.
I thought that was a big deal.
You know, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. I think that it's going to help to have Thielen be a number 1.
Yeah.
And be the first option because I feel like he earned it, 1. And 2, there were times where you could take the deep away, but there was no answer for him coming across. He's excellent at coming across the middle.
He's a dog, man.
Great call, and I'll follow up with that. He and Kirk have a very good connection and a good friendship, okay? The second part is now when he actually throws it to Thielen, he doesn't have Stephon Diggs yelling at him. He didn't throw it to him.
Right.
So that part helps him out well. You got the rookie coming in. He'll be happy to be there. I doubt he'll cause any kind of issues that way. You know, BC Johnson was a 7th round pick who can't believe, hey, I'm going to be a starter in the NFL in year 2. All that kind of comes together. So you get a little bit of quiet on that side of the ball for Minnesota. Diggs is a tremendous player. But that's tough on a quarterback when every time he goes back to pass, he knows if I don't throw it to that guy, I might have to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to San Francisco. I think outside of the draft, the biggest thing that happened is the trade to get them Trent
Williams.
Trent Williams.
Yep.
Williams.
Jimmy G has got another second to operate on his blind side now. and that's scary because you give Samuels another second to get that offense going. They added a running back that I think is going to give them more of a power. Um, the guys that they had were speed guys, and this guy is a speed guy, but I think he's more for power and than most people realize.
Here's my thing, Charles, and they made some moves that I like. Trent Williams, the trade. Joe Staley retired. They traded Breida. They traded Goodwin. Some decent moves. I like the pick of the D tackle. So here's my whole thing with the Niners in the draft. I wanted Jerry.
Dino.
I wanted Jerry Jeudy. Okay, that's who I wanted. I like Shanahan's play design. I think Shanahan's the best play designer in the league. My thing is, at some point, we're gonna have to somebody's gonna have to line up and play receiver and beat somebody. Okay, so they got Ayuk, who I like, who I think they're trying to make Debo Emmanuel and then Ayuk Debo from last year. But then I want to ask you specifically about the kid from Tennessee, because that's Juwan Jennings. That's what I wanted. The archetype, a guy that's tall, can get out, can line up and play one-on-one, but he also has some shiftiness. So could you just kind of talk about their draft, particularly about that kid, because I think he could be the steal of the draft in the Shanahan system.
Yeah, that's a great point. The only thing I would say is, to me, the steal of the draft was getting Trent Williams.
Fair.
Because that major draft, as far as I'm concerned, because Joe Staley was on the fence about wanting to come back and play.
Sure.
And that just tells you how good this organization is doing right now, because they had that conversation with Joe, and they weren't pushing him one way or the other, but all they were saying is, what are you feeling? And do we need to go get someone? And when Joe indicated, hey, I'm leaning hard towards retirement. Okay, well, we're going to go and try and get Trent Williams. Got it? No problem. Helped him out greatly. Now, Joe, if he was, I'm good. I didn't leave you bereft, right? I didn't leave you there. Because there is a sense as an athlete of loyalty. And if you like your team, and if I don't have someone, maybe Joe Staley tries to come back and play, but his heart might not be in it. Well, he doesn't have to worry. He leaves feeling good. Because Trent Williams also, besides being a terrific tackle and replacement Joe Staley, he plays like Joe Staley in terms of mobility. See, for Kyle's offense, as you know, you got to be light on your feet while being 300 pounds, because he does a lot of those play action, counters, boots, all of those things. Mobile offensive line. Right. Trent Williams is every bit of that.
Sure.
And he's had a year to heal after he's been dinged up. So to me, that's a big deal. Now, real quick with your receivers, Ayuk, like Debo, use them all over the place. Jet sweeps, fly sweeps, run the football out of the backfield, throw it to him in space. He is a game-breaking type player. I had him rated higher than N'Keal Harry coming out of the same school last year. I thought Ayuk was a better football player.
Okay.
Right? Both of them obviously first-round guys. Jennings is going to be an interesting case study about what they decide to do with him.
Right.
Big, strong, powerful guy. In the parlance of the NFL, though, he can't run.
Right.
As a receiver, he's not a guy that can run. Now, the rest of us in society, we can't catch him. But in the NFL, they'll be right there with him. They'll be in his hip pocket all the time.
Right.
So he's going to be similar to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who came out last year from Stanford. Big on the 20 in, big on third down. He's got to make contested catches.
Right.
I don't think he's going to separate, but he uses his body and his length to uncover late in the route and make those kind of catches. Plus, I know he's a Tennessee guy, and I'm a Tennessee guy, but having talked to the people there and understood him, this kid is a competitor to the nth degree. And I think that he'll respond to how Kyle coaches, because all he cares about is, as long as I trust you, I'll respond for you. And Jeremy Pruitt stayed on his behind, and he had his best year.
Sure.
Kyle stays on their behind. I think the same thing happens there. So I'm eager to see how that turns out.
What about
San
Francisco's
But getting Williams was a big deal to me.
Sure.
But what about San Francisco's running game and adding another running back?
Well, look, as many runners as they got, and they continue to piling them up, I'm with you, Mark. Just go.
Keep them fresh.
Being able to let Breida go and turn that into a draft pick, that was nice for them as well.
Yeah.
Because by the end of the year, as you know, Breida had gone from being that guy to being the third guy, and then he developed he lost his confidence. He dropped the ball twice in the playoffs, and then that was it. You know, like I was like, I can't do this right now, Matt. We'll work this out later. But off they go. So to your point, without a doubt. And here's the other thing. In adding Charlie Warner, the tight end from Georgia, I wouldn't think of him as a tight end.
Right.
I would think of him as a backup to your offensive weapon, the juice man, Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah.
More as a backup fullback, H-back type, more than I see him as a true tight end. I don't think that's really what he got drafted for. But they drafted him for another blocker, another guy with versatility, that sort of thing. So we'll see how that turns out for him.
Kyle was saying that they wanted to do more two tight end stuff, two tight end, but you never know with Kyle. He just means two tight ends on the field. He doesn't necessarily mean like two guys lined up next to each other, So.
Right.
Yeah.
Kyle will essentially run three tight ends with Juszczyk being a wing. I mean, I still remember last year against New Orleans, we were lucky enough to have the game. And on back-to-back plays inside the 12-yard line, he ran a tight end, lines up on the right, crosses under all the traffic and comes back left. They hit him in the flat. Makes a nice play. They come back the very next play, I think is with Juszczyk. Now he wings it, the exact same play from a different formation, touchdown. He has got that kind of mind and the ability to see ahead. Kyle's a terrific designer, and then they executed it well with his play calls.
And I know Mark is itching to jump in here and talk some Cowboys. So Mark,
let's get him.
I'm trying to say the best for last. Man.
Oh my gosh!
Sometimes you just got to say the best for last.
Real quick before Mark jumps in and talks some Cowboys, we were watching the draft, doing a live show, and Jacob, Mark's son, was with us, and you should have seen those two hugging and crying over each other when CeeDee Lamb.
I thought they were going to cry. I legitimately thought it was a legit father-son moment when the Cowboys draft. They looked into each other's eyes.
Now, didn't you just come from a birthday party yourself?
No, I came from my wife yelling at me because it's my 4-year-old's birthday and forcing me to have cake. She's like, "You're gonna eat some of this cake. It's your son's birthday."
Did you have the cake first?
I had the cake.
Eat your cake, anime.
That means we're okay, and we don't have to worry about you moving in with Dino or Mark.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, you can put that out your mind. I got a happy home right now. I'm trying to keep it like that.
Hey, as we get into your Cowboys, Mark, I have to ask, at what point, as the first round unfolded, did you start to think to yourself, is CeeDee Lamb a possibility?
It was early. It was probably about the 9th pick.
Okay.
And when people started pushing back and the wide receivers, even Judy, went back 2 picks, and I said to myself, oh, my God, man, there's going to be 3 wide receivers. I'll take any one of the top 3.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, San Francisco has it all lined up, and they say no.
On
Kinlaw. And I went, oh, my God. Now it's 4 spots that people needed wide receiver needs. And it went down, it pushed down again, and then San Francisco finally picked Ruggs.
No, Ruggs went to the Raiders.
Ruggs went to the Raiders.
Ruggs went to Las Vegas.
And when Ruggs went to the Raiders, I said,
we're going to get one of them.
We're going to get Judy?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I would rather have CeeDee Lamb because he's more of a thumper, and if you hit him, he's going to bounce off you. I said, and it came down, man, and I'm telling you, they're kind of joking, but in my heart of hearts, I actually did have that moment where your eyes kind of well up.
Oh, yeah.
We're having a boy? It was like, oh, my God. This is too good. This is not happening. And I'm still on cloud 9. I feel like it's a dream, really. Like it didn't happen. And you get, especially being at the Cowboys, as much as they had such a good offense, they led the NFC last year in drop balls in the division.
Yep.
So now if you can eliminate those, I guess it was just alone.
Right.
Amari Cooper had 6 drop balls. He had Terrell Owens type drops. If you can eliminate that, and CeeDee Lamb don't drop balls.
Yeah.
So,
Mark, I'm going to tell you, Amari Cooper, I doubt we'll have that this year. I think a good number of those was him playing hurt last year. Because Amari tried to play through a lot of stuff, and sometimes people gave him all kind of this, that, and everything. We had your guys in Detroit. I don't know if you remember that game. And Amari would come on the field, make a play, and then have to go out for a while. And then he'd come back, make a play, have to go out for a while. And I think a lot of people are like, where's Amari Cooper? I'm like, he's just trying to get ready to try and make a play. And he played through things. I think he's tougher than what people give him credit for, because a lot of guys, a lot of those routines just like, all right, this doesn't feel right. I'm shutting this down.
right.
And he tried to play through it and make plays. So I think some of those were, I call them concentration injury drops.
Okay.
Dinged up, you're fighting, you're not quite right. Maybe you didn't practice as much that week. I'm giving him a little bit of a pass because I think he's tougher than what people think. So I'm with you on that. I think a lot of that gets eliminated this year. CeeDee Lamb, as you expressed, excellent hands. We haven't seen that from him. Michael Gallup gets a chance now to continue to expand his game. And what about your tight end? I think your tight end is going to come along and play really well for you, Blake Jarwin.
He's going to do a really good job.
They hit on Jarwin.
He was in a position this year where he stretched the field and held up some with the blocking. But
Yes.
the thing with adding Jarwin as a starter and adding another wide receiver that can play the X, the Z, or the slot,
Bingo.
all of this benefits Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You have got to play 5 yards deeper than you've always played.
Oh, man.
And Ezekiel Elliott could have one of those 2,000-yard years.
Oh, man, because CD's going to take the top off everything, and Dak will throw it to him.
And
Dak will throw it. And just think about Dak now. Everything that's going on with the contract. If that doesn't say that, to me, the understated part of that pick was a love letter from the Jones family to Dak Prescott.
Man.
Yeah.
Without having to write the letter.
Much deserved love letter.
Do we care about you? Are we trying to get it right? And here's what I loved about their draft. They were smart enough that when that gift fell to them, what we call manna from heaven, they took it. They're like, I know what our board says. Our board says we have to get a center. Our board says we have to get a corner.
Safety.
Our board says we have to get a safety. We need an edge rusher. But CeeDee Lamb,
Oh, my
rated
God.
as highly on everyone's boards, and now I'm sitting here looking at him at 17, and I know there's no issues because they've done their homework on him. There's no background. I've talked to the Oklahoma people. They love CeeDee Lamb. They have nothing about CD other than praise and work ethic, and they just love the kid. And I got to meet him, and I got it. It takes you 2 seconds. You get it with this young man. I think it's a terrific pick by them. And now, Mark, you guys are like setting the track meet in the NFC East.
Yeah.
And by the way, it wasn't unnoticed by the Eagles, because as much as they caught grief about taking Jalen Hurts, did you see what they came back and took after that?
They took
Their draft changed.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it changed like people think. Howie Roseman, their GM, had a plan. And while people freaked out about Jalen Hurts going in the second round, where's our receivers? Where's this? Did you look what he did? At one point, my colleague Peter Schrager said, hey, they've got 14 receivers on the roster right now. They're going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. And they got a ton of speed to try and answer what Dallas did first. First move, here we go. We got to try and keep up, all right? So if you're Washington, if you're the Giants, speed is now coming to the game and into the division because of Dallas first, Philadelphia answering, and this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Here's the other I thought was very interesting. Travis Frederick retires. You guys remember when he got drafted that people lost their mind that the Cowboys took Travis Frederick in the first round?
Yeah.
You could get him in the third. Why would you take him? He's an all-pro Pro Bowl center, gets sick, battles back, goes to the Pro Bowl again last year, decides that's it. I'm done. More power to him. He's earned it.
You earned that.
Sure.
Cowboys, don't force the issue. Don't make any trades. Don't move up or anything. Let the board work. And then I'm watching this thing. I said, hold on a second. Their second, fourth round pick, they get the consensus All-American center from Wisconsin, Tyler Biotish.
Yeah.
You can play right away. You've got your center. I thought, wow, that's a big time thing. The big D tackle from Oklahoma, Neville Gallimore. They lose Malik Collins. They lose all the guys up front. Here comes Gallimore. Bam, another replacement to help out Tank Lawrence. And one of the underrated picks for me, and it's not just because I love you, Mark, but I said it on air on Friday. How has Bradley Anae not come off the board yet, the pass rusher from Utah? He has not tested well. People don't like his body, but every time you turn on the tape, he's got wrapped around the quarterback. He had a big week in the Senior Bowl. So all of a sudden, he falls to the 5th. Tank Lawrence is now jumping up and down saying, thank you, a partner in crime.
Yeah.
Here comes Bradley Anae. I think it was a sneaky good draft for them as well.
Yep.
They filled some needs with, I think, some quality, productive guys in college, and they changed how games going to be played in the NFC East by adding C.D. Lamb right out of the gate.
Yes, they did, and I was upset. I have to admit, with the 4th pick and them moving down 10 or 12 spots, I was like, why don't you get Cushenberry?
Yeah.
And then they didn't, and then they made a trade with Philadelphia, who they haven't made a trade with Philadelphia in 11 years.
Exactly.
Just so they can go up and get, our current center now from Wisconsin, which he was the best run blocking center in the draft. Cushenberry, I think, was a better overall.
Yeah. I love Cushenberry. I'm like you on that, Mark. Cushenberry was my guy. I know that Cesar Ruiz got a lot of love at Michigan. I was a big Cushenberry fan, absolutely. But you nailed it, in my opinion, when you say Biotish, the best run blocking center. Because if you come from Wisconsin, if you don't do anything else, you're going to run block.
You got to be able to run block. And Ezekiel Elliott is going to love him. Because,
oh, God, is he ever. He's already hugging him.
Yeah, when it gets – I mean, I'm sure that was the first call that Zeke made. He didn't call nobody else in the draft. But he was like, brother, my man, I love you.
And you know what else it does? It allows McGovern to stay at guard.
Yeah.
Okay, so now remember, we lost him for the season last year. So in a sense, he's like an extra draft pick this year because McGovern now gets to play because he couldn't play last year because he's dinged up. Now that puts a little pressure out there. So, you got Connor Williams.
Connor Williams was hurt too.
Yep.
Right? He was hurt and beat up and kept trying to come back and play. You get them intact. Zach Martin at right guard. Now you figure out whether Connor Williams is your guard, or if you have to, does he go back to tackle somewhere? But I don't think so. I think he stays at guard. McGovern becomes your swing guy. That works out perfectly for you. You got to get Tyron Smith healthy, but at some point they've got to get some help from him on the left side because he's playing through a lot of dings. And I really thought last year on the right side, that was his best year. Lyle Collins, I thought that was his best season because he really came into his own. I wouldn't move him at all anymore. Right tackle, stay there. I wish they would switch him
because the blind side, Smith gave up a lot of third down and holding. Third down and 4, hold. Now
and that happens when you get older. You're beat up. You know he plays with bad back all the time. So as great as he is, because when he was at his best, people weren't getting anywhere near the quarterback.
No, not at all.
So hopefully this offseason he gets a chance to heal and get rejuvenated, but they've got to start thinking about that left side at some point coming up really soon because, he can only go so long.
What do you think about Cam Newton? That's the, out of all of the things that moved me, I saw Aaron Rodgers get treated like garbage in this draft. And if I was Aaron Rodgers, I'd be like, trade me to Denver.
Yeah, Charles, I know you got to go,
trade me to Denver, and then, maybe now Cam Newton can make his go to Green Bay and get some love.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? That'd be something. I really, New England didn't take a quarterback. I don't think that Cam and New England, that just doesn't feel like a match to me, no matter what. It just doesn't quite feel right.
Right.
There are going to be a few other places. I'm still not ruling out Washington.
Okay.
Because of the relationship with Ron Rivera. And already I think it's lukewarm about Dwayne Haskins. They've already traded for Kyle Allen. It's just it just feels like I'm not taking that one and throwing it out. It sounds like Jameis Winston's finding a home in New Orleans, which is interesting.
I think that's great.
I thought that was great.
Wow.
I love that move.
And I just think that as time goes on, there will be a spot where he ends up. I thought for a little while it might have been Chicago.
Yeah.
He goes there, he presses, and then they made the move for Foles. Minshew, a backup for Minshew or a guy to press Minshew and maybe take his job in Jacksonville.
Sure.
I know they drafted Jake Luton from Oregon State late. I don't think he's that guy. But if I were Cam, I'd beg to get to Jacksonville and take on Minshew.
Hey, I know you got to go, but real quick, just let us know. Did the Packers muck this up as we all think they did, or are we missing something?
I'd love to say no, but I don't understand. Like, look, let's go back to Philadelphia. At the end of round 2, and they took Jalen Hurts, which at the time was a head scratcher for Philadelphia fans. Like, what was that? And I got a couple of my Philly people who called me and said, we're all meeting at the Rocky statue, and we're going to march to Howie Roseman's house tonight. So that's how they felt about it, all right? Now, in hindsight, okay, when you look at Philadelphia, let me pull this up real quick, see if I got Philly real quick, and I'll get to Green Bay, okay?
Okay.
Trust me, there's a place there. I'm just trying to pull this up because I want to be accurate.
You're good.
So they're upset with Howie because they wanted receivers as well, right?
Right.
Okay, so hold on. Come on. Here we go. So they take Rager, the dart out of TCU in the first round, but that was a surprise to everyone because people don't know him as well, so it's not as well received. But this kid can fly and make plays.
Yes, sir.
So speed right away, right? Hurts screws them up. Then they come back to Davion Taylor, a linebacker who still has some developmental, but he can fly. Speed on defense makes sense. But still, not satisfying. Kayvon Wallace comes off the board, a really good safety. Still not satisfying. Oh, let's add a tackle and Jack Driscoll. Philadelphia fans are having a stroke at this point. Are you kidding me? Then we get going. John Hightower, receiver, Boise State. Then we get Quez Watkins, receiver, Southern Miss, a 4-3 guy. Now we've got speed. Rager, Hightower, Watkins. Every one of them can run. Green Bay doesn't take a single receiver in the deepest receiver draft going. That was stunning to me. And now, free agents, who are they? I mean, I know Aaron was like, what? Because when I go back to Green Bay's draft, see, Philly had a plan. Green Bay's plan, we're asking questions like, what was the plan? Right? What exactly did you guys do that you're saying, yeah, we had a plan for this whole thing? Okay, so you don't take them early, but you don't take any?
The Packers fans that were texting me, too, were just as angry, or if not more, about the A.J. Dillon pick. Because they're like, guys, we already got Aaron Jones. We got to get more people that can be on the field at the same time to help Aaron Rodgers, right?
Well, the Aaron Jones one, I think that what they have to understand is getting A.J. Dillon. See, they got A.J. Dillon because Aaron Jones' contract is up the end of this year.
Sure.
See, so that was part of that, and I understood that part.
Okay.
But I didn't understand after him, DeGuara, the tight end from Cincinnati. I like him as a player, but he's going to be a fullback, H-back, not a tight end as much. Okay. They were looking for a tight end. I'm not sure he's a tight end, but they may play him there. Kamal Martin, linebacker. John Runyon, guard. That's okay. Jake Hansen, center. Stepping at guard. Okay, you're shoring up the offensive line. I get that. I can't find a receiver. And that's
no matter how many times you look at it.
Yeah.
because unless they're saying to themselves, we really think Valdez Scantling is going to make a jump, right? You're looking for all of those things that were going to happen. That's a lot to bank on for Aaron.
Right. And
I feel bad for Aaron. I feel like Aaron is in a place where, hey, man, he's in the same identical place that Brett Favre was in.
yep.
Isn't that funny? All those years later,
crazy.
and they draft a quarterback at the same time for him.
At the same time.
Crazy.
Charles,
And
yeah, go ahead.
he needed a weapon to help him rather
That's what he
than
was
a
looking for.
successor. And
Because it wasn't that long they drafted 3 receivers, remember?
Yep.
It was Jamon Moore, Valdez Scantling, and I'm trying to remember who the third guy was, hoping to get
it was
your hits
Brown.
on that.
Aquinius St.
Huh?
Brown.
it was
Aquinius St. Brown.
it was John Brown's son out of
Yeah.
USC.
And he got hurt. He got hurt this year, so they didn't get what they needed out of him. Valdez Scantling, at the end of the year, they threw him a bomb, and the ball goes right through his arm against Chicago to open up the game, and we never saw him again. Mon Moore's long gone. Okay, Devontae Adams needs help. Who's going to be that guy? Now, the beauty for them is they ended up getting an unexpected gift. The free agent out of Iowa State last year.
Right.
Ended up playing so well for them. All right, so they're hoping that continues to develop. But I thought that they would add to the receiving core. I'm sure Aaron did too. So who knows? So anyway, as I said before, I hate to do this, but I promised that I had to do this. But I cannot believe you guys had me on. Thank you so much. And if you want to do it again sometime, I'm up for it. I'll quit that.
What's up, man? That's what's up.
I was gonna ask too.
Yeah.
And before you leave, Charles, we gotta have Sandy time.
A little hand sanitizer time.
I'll give you a little pour. Right
There we
there.
go.
Guys, like stay safe. Stay safe. Tell the family that we say hello and thank you for allowing you to come on and waste their precious time with you.
Thank you. I can't wait to do it again with all you guys. All right, appreciate
Thank you
it.
for mentoring me, Charles.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow. Charles Davis.